Hello, afternoon, and welcome to another My Music with myself, Graham Cave. And sorry for being a few minutes late this afternoon if you've been waiting patiently in the wings there for us to start. But we were having such a great conversation, we almost forgot about you. We're sorry about that. We will now invite you into our fold so you can enjoy the rest of this wonderful chatterings. First, though, we're going to play a lovely video from the wonderful sponsor of this program called Analog Trash. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be back after this.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Hello, there we go. And my guest today is the wonderful Holly Henderson, who is from Maidstone in Kent, I have learned. But also, she's already informed me that Paul McCartney, as part of his rider, loves cheese and pickle sandwiches. Has to be Branston, though.
Yeah.
Has to be the right pickle. Is that to do with the fact that it's vegan? Maybe.
I wonder. I don't think he asked for vegan cheese. You know.
Oh, don't you?
No. Well, I mean, there's no. I'm sorry to upset vegans, but it's got to be cheddar and pickle, hasn't it? Really.
It has to be. Well, especially this was in Frome, okay,
Let's go with cheddar then.
which is very close to cheddar itself. And when in cheddar, one has to do cheddar. There you go. So, Holly, thanks for joining me. As I say, we've had a lovely chat already
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
about all sorts of things. And we were just talking about, before we came on, about how lazy music journalism has got of recent times. Hasn't it? Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah. I won't name any names, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the press and promoting my new album at the moment. So, you know, you do a press release and an EPK and you do all this writing and you hope to God that someone's actually going to listen to it long enough to consider you for a review or whatever. You get a message back and you're like, oh, wow, I'm getting a review on this blog and they've posted it. You go on there and they've just copied and pasted your EPK. And I cannot tell you, I think probably 70 or 80% of the press I've had for my album has been copied and pasted.
Oh, that's marvelous.
It's really disappointing. I don't know about you, but
Well, I probably copied vast amounts of it for this video, but that's fine because at least we're putting the effort in with the actual video itself.
exactly.
But what I would say with that is that's always been the case. When I worked as an editor
Yeah.
at a local radio station, I found exactly the same thing, and then that made me realise. You see, and when after that, I then ran a band management company for a while, and I thought, brilliant. If you sent, this is back in the day of fax machines, okay, which is a long time ago, but before you were born. So what I realized was if you sent somebody a fax, basically with the whole story set out on the fax, they would publish it. It's
Do the work
brilliant.
for them, sort of thing.
Yeah, just make sure you've done all of the work for them and just laid it out beautifully. And of course, these days it's exactly the same. So now we have Chat GPT as well. It literally could just write it all for you.
I honestly think it's. I don't know if it's a. I've talked to a few people, obviously, in my circles and my friends. People are horrified by it, and
What, Chat GPT?
yeah, because
Yeah.
the terrifying thought is that it will potentially erase the need for things like journalists or even novelists and academics. Like, it won't. This is the thing. These people will persist always, and we always have, as technology has changed. And you know, I'm a painter first, so I've seen what's happened to art as the digital age has come in and changed the industry and how we consume art, and then also how we make it. And has been damaging, but obviously we have the pros of being able to get it out there more. It's like a balancing thing. But chat GPT, I don't see the benefit. I really don't.
No. We
We
may try it. We may try it after this interview and post it somewhere. I might ask ChatGPT to do a review of your album to see if it's actually better than the journalists who have just cut and pasted your EPK, and that may be quite telling. So true. Yes, Rebecca's agreeing with you. Stephen's just bringing up the point that small chunk or normal chunk for the Branson. I think that has a point that needs to be clarified.
I mean, I'm going to have to, all my life as a musician, I've wanted to be even 10 degrees of separation away from Paul McCartney, but I'm now on a mission because I have to know that as well. Music aside, Paul.
you need to know that so that you can get it right in case he knocks at the door one day.
Exactly, because I have Branson in my fridge like any decent person. But
yep.
You know,
it's got to be right. Now listen, in terms of, I mean, you mentioned Sir Paul McCartney there. Has he been influential to you over the years?
Very much so. I'm definitely a bit of a cliche when it comes to some of my heroes. I mean,
okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Some things are mainstream because they're really good, especially back in those days. Like, I love the Beatles, I love David Bowie, I love Prince. And, you know, I was always fascinated by people who took ownership unapologetically of their kind of creative process. So somebody like Prince, who was unapologetic about the fact that he loved to collaborate with people because he liked the fact that people's ideas could contribute to his own and it could change the direction of the process. And he found that really interesting and it was always worth exploring. So it wasn't like these people were egomaniacs. They just knew that a lot of the time their vision was the one that was worth plowing forward with. And I find people like that really inspiring. So naturally, yeah.
And they bring energy to everything as well. I mean,
proper artists, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think many of us who are, you know, music fans haven't seen Prince's guitar solo on "Whilst My Guitar Gently Weeps"
at
on
least
YouTube.
100 times.
At least 100 times.
And wondered, how did he not kill the guy when he threw
the guitar up in the air afterwards? But it's absolutely Wigfield on that list. Well, now I doubt it, but I was going to say though, Holly, there might be within that list though some pop artists who added a sense of fun along the way. Were there?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of my influences, like I do like looking at the bigger picture of creating things because music I gravitated to the most, and I do when I'm trying to articulate something. I'm trying to, like, usually things come to me musically and I want to get them out because I actually am quite a bit of a control freak, but I also quite like the instant gratification of music. Being a painter, like, there's not a way of like developing things past that point. You have to learn when to leave the canvas alone, but music can constantly change if you want it to.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that in the modern age, as people like myself can, sorry, the sun is like ridiculous all of a sudden.
It's all, what's it doing?
I think, oh, Jesus.
It's attacking you.
I know. I have one window in my living room, a tiny window. And
I'll tell you what it is. It's that plant in the background. It wanted the sun. It's quite funny actually because you were getting kind of shrouded in darkness mainly, but that one plant in the background was getting the majority of the sun there. So it was.
I know my plants do probably.
That's nature. That's nature fighting back. You see, you mentioned ChatGPT, and immediately nature comes back to tell us, no, actually, nature's bigger than all of us. Just remember that.
Indeed. But yeah, going back to the original point, I do like the fact that people like myself, you know, I had a laptop, nothing else, in my council house, and I could put music together and come up with ideas, and you can get online and write with someone in the Philippines or in Jamaica or in America. Like, so modern artists like Sufjan Stevens or even Bon Iver and like Unknown Mortal Orchestra, people like that are kind of visionaries in the digital age, and they've taken references from the people from the 10s to the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and moved it on. Like, they're the people who proved that the digital age isn't killing music at all. But there are a lot of people that don't contribute in a good way to that, but I just don't focus on them. Like, I don't know a huge amount about some of the mainstream pop music at the moment because it just doesn't.
Well, we've talked about that.
Really?
Yeah, we've talked about that quite a lot on this program, because the digital age does two things. I mean, it's made every element of the music process affordable. Every element of it, from recording, because you no longer have to go into a studio and own studio time.
Yeah,
you can, if there's certain things that you need that for.
Yeah,
but that's a choice now. It's not a staple. All the way through to production, through to distribution, everything can now be everything can now be in the hands of the person creating the music, which is great.
Yeah, because it's getting that seed of creativity in the beginning. Because back in the day, you couldn't just be like a 14-year-old band coming up with ideas, or a 16-year-old in their bedroom who's actually highly creative but doesn't have any facility to articulate it and put it down anywhere. Whereas now, at least if that seed is planted, people even, like, seen kids in Africa getting on a computer and being able to put really cool music together. And that just, we've lost over the 100 years because of the lack of technology. Some of the best musical geniuses we'll never know existed. Now that, unfortunately, the only reason that we'll lose those is because of the difficulty of getting a platform for genuinely interesting independent artists, unless they are like Gwyneth Paltrow's child, etc.
Yeah.
We have a different problem.
I liked what you said about the fact that, unlike art as well, though, where there's a point where you have to step away from it, because otherwise you over gild the lily.
Indeed.
Which
you can do with music.
You can, but the fact that you can keep coming back to it, and actually you can, with a song, you can strip it away again, and you can start again, and you can do this to it. I actually listened. I wasn't going to, but then I did listen last night to the new U2 album, which is a kind of deconstruction of all of their own songs.
That's interesting.
Which, it was interesting and incredibly beautiful in a lot of places, and in some ways much stronger, because Bono's voice is aged now, and but the delicacy of his voice now.
He's really aged well, hasn't he?
Yeah, where it was just a lot. There was a lot of power in his voice at one point, but he now has got to control his voice in a way to get what he needs to get out there. But stripping everything back in that way and hearing it like that sound like it's completely new songs. Yeah, that's
really cool.
But in a way where there's still enough there to recognize it and go, yeah, okay, that's that. But that's and that's wonderful when you can do that.
It's the fact that you can revisit something. I mean, painters did do that throughout history, but there's one thing that kind of like triggered a bit of a eureka moment for me when I discovered that Joni Mitchell had revisited Both Sides Now 30 years later, 40 years later, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's like this woman, after 30, 40 years, everything that she'd seen, everything she'd been through, her body,
and you hear it,
had changed, and the song naturally moved. And you think that is like, that is true artistic expression, when you can see that even something that this person created before that was existing, and it had its own thing, its own vision, and then 30 years down the line, she could then revisit that and develop it. It's like, that's pretty amazing. There's not many things in the world that allow that kind of process and that kind of insight into somebody's condition and creativity quite like that.
You yourself, for this new album, took a different approach from your previous work in terms of where you did it and how you did it.
Yeah.
What were you trying to achieve by doing that?
I think, not comparing myself to Joni Mitchell, but it's that thing of like, you become aware as the years go on and as you keep creating, because I do create a lot. I'm very like constant, even if it's just an idea, I have to get it down, and I ended up with a very extensive amount of songs that are just sitting collecting dust at the moment. So like the first album I did, most of those songs I wrote when I was 18, 19. I'm 27 now. So,
goodness, where's the time gone?
I know. But that's the thing, I've changed so much. Like a bit of life has happened now, and since I wrote those songs, I haven't stopped working in music. I haven't done anything else. I've been pursuing this, and my life has changed dramatically within those times. Things have happened, and I really felt the need, because even though I was making things as an artist, I sort of thought from an outside perspective, like, this is the snapshot that resembles me right now. It was Monday Green, and it's like, that's not who I am anymore. It's not who I've been for years and years. It was really important to sort of like stop for a sec and take a snapshot of now, because I'm so aware that I'm changing, but I don't always sit and say like, I don't know, I'm always moving forward. I don't really look around that much and think, shit, I need to stop and actually take stock of what I have and what is my sound right now, and put it all together and actually take the patience to do that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was about. That's
because I mean, whether we like it or not, we live in an age where that kind of naturally happens anyway. I wouldn't know because I'm not on Facebook, but my wife shows me every now and again, and it brings up, 5 years ago. This was what you did 5 years ago.
And it's crazy. You look different. Everyone around you at the time was different. You suddenly go, oh, like, when did that? Become half a decade.
It's strange, isn't it, that we kind of digitize these moments, etc.
Yeah. Because I think also because of the digital age and social media and whatever we do, feel the pressure to keep moving and keep progressing, and there's really that pressure of like, especially as you're getting older and more experienced or whatever, there's also that pressure of like, 5 years ago to now, I'm supposed to be like making loads more money, I'm supposed to be in a better place, my job's supposed to be better, and it's like you're so focused on that you forget that your job as an artist is not to constantly have growth. You're not a business. You aren't a business. You're an artist. So your actual job is to have dialogue and capture things and reflect them back and process the world or your experiences or other people's experiences, and you're supposed to be there to document these things as a story.
I was going to say, because all of the artists that you mentioned right at the beginning, wasn't that their great thing for it that sits with all of those people? Right? You mentioned a name like Bowie. I think the reason that the nation mourned so much when we lost Bowie was because he reflected society in a way that we couldn't reflect society. He said things about us. Yeah.
That's what these bands do, and these movements that we had that we're losing. I just went to an exhibition at Somerset House. It's called The Horror Show, but it was about the punk and the goth and the horror and the club kid and all of the kind of twisted cultural movements that were going on through the 70s to the 80s, maybe early 90s. And it was the point that all of these movements across the world were happening. The whole point of them, whether it was to have a very direct dialogue about, this is happening with Thatcher right now, this is our album to say fuck you Thatcher, or this, you know, there's an economic disaster going on, or working class people are being shat on. It doesn't. These people were commentators, and then in other ways they were responding in, you know, like escaping from how society was becoming. So, you know, you had the punks and the goths and the club kids who rejected all of society's norms, and they represent to the people of that time, actually, yeah, when everything crap was going on, or when that was difficult, or that was weird, these people became a beacon of how we can respond through expression, through art, through music, through books, through whatever. And it's like, I worry that when you look back at those things, because of the nature of social media now, that we aren't creating scenes and movements anymore, because they're so individual. Everyone's so focused on growth and moving forward that they forget to have a focus on the community and what makes us who we are now, and what is the time we're living in now as artists, and how do we respond to that? Like,
yeah, that's really interesting, because there's a positive and a negative to that, isn't there? I mean, I guess the positive is that from a listener point of view, there's kind of no pressure on anybody these days to be a particular kind of listener.
no.
Right. Whereas once upon a time, not that long ago, you know, growing up, it was your identity was partly defined by what you listened to, as much as it was by how you dressed, or, you know, the kind of people that you hung around with. You would say, oh, well, you're a, you know, you listen to that.
You're a mod. You're a this.
You're a mod. You're a, you know, you're a punk. You know, you're a dweeb. You listen to prog rock. We'll come on to that in a minute. But you know, now I always struggle with it a little bit when you talk to people, because people, everybody's a music fan right now. Everybody, and everybody is like, yeah, well, I just listen to everything. I like everything, you know. And of
Which
course,
has its really good things. Of course.
yes, but of course, the trouble is when you actually dive deeper into that with people, you normally find that you say, well, so you like everything, so you've heard of no, or no.
That's the
no.
problem. When people say they listen to everything, I mean, my stepdad listens to everything, for example. Like, he is an audiophile, a music fan. He digs really deep.
Hi, stepdad.
Yeah. I mean, and he's one of the main reasons why I've done the same. I feel responsibility to understand my heritage as a musician and my place in that conversation. These people are important. Like, I think it should be our responsibility as artists to know about that. Because also, then the point is, through those references, through those conversations, it's not about educating, but there is a very fickle nature to how we consume music. And it's, oh yeah, I heard this song on Spotify, I liked it, put it on my playlist, and I moved on. And I didn't look into that artist. I didn't listen to the whole album, probably didn't even listen to the whole song before I moved on to the next one. And it's like
20 seconds.
Yeah, like, then, you know, the music lovers are not, there's something deeper to that when they say that I listen to everything. But I get you. I do think that generally when I speak to people and they say they listen to everything, they usually have a very shallow reference point. And actually their definition of everything is very limited.
Is a very curated list. And the trouble is, going back to ChatGPT, it's the bots who are curating.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like...
Sorry. My intercom is ringing.
Come in.
Come in. So my mother's here. She's going to get it.
Oh, all right. We'll have two deep pan pizzas, please. With oh dear.
Mum, just put the phone down. It's obviously some dickhead. I
love that. That's keeping it real.
Yeah. I think it's some people ring.
Yeah, in the middle of the day.
Bugger off! I don't have any friends. It's just Anyway,
we should get the dog. We should get the dog in to make it even more real. Dog, come here.
Dog,
come on. Oh, he's not going to do it now.
Oh no, come here.
I thought I'd try and bring him in by the end of the interview.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, you've got a little Dutch hound who's kind of, symbolic of the whole show, really. I have a newsletter called Sausage Dogs Are Cute for anyone that wants to read that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's not actually completely about sausage dogs. It is about other stuff as well, but it has got sausage dogs in it. Yes, I know you're in it. Yeah, you like it.
I'm really sorry. One sec. I have to go check my door.
That's all right.
Apparently it isn't some dickhead. Well, no, it's still kicking.
There you go. Hope you're enjoying the interview. We're just getting rid of whoever it is, or we're making sure that there's pizza. I'm going to just deal with the dog.
Oh my god. The dog is here. I had a package from Vinted, everyone. Apparently I ordered something ages ago that I forgot about.
There you go. If you're listening to this on Spotify, that bit is where Holly went to the door and I let the dog out.
Life carries on. You know.
Life always carries on. This is very real, this program.
This is as real as it gets. I think.
It is. It's fantastic. You won't get this in Prog Magazine. Now, let's talk about that. You were, and I saw that because, I'm purvey other journalistic landscape. I saw that you were reviewed in Prog Magazine, which is one of the better magazines out there, I have to say. Did you find that both gratifying and slightly confusing?
I understood. So I've read Prog Magazine for a few years. So it's kind of
moved, hasn't it? It's moved in terms of what it deals with, right?
It's moved a lot. The thing that I find prog the most interesting genre, because I had a conversation about this with someone recently, that prog is not limited to progressive rock. Prog is just progressive music.
Correct.
And I think that this sounds really twatty now, but it's just prog is more of a mentality towards creation than a specific sound, I think. Yes. Because I think that, whether it's completely avant-garde music or like me, a slightly different take on something that's ultimately folk music, I do it in a progressive way because the whole point of the way that I write is that it's not based on typical song structures, and it tries to go against where your head thinks the music is going to go. And I feel like that's kind of the crux of progressive music, is that it pushes the boundary of predictability in music.
Again, let's just go back to any of the people that you mentioned before.
Exactly.
You should argue that they're all progressive artists, right?
Technically, it makes it difficult to define it then as well. And I know,
doesn't it? But there's no way that you can say that Sgt. Pepper's isn't a progressive album.
It's one of the most. Yeah, I mean that like Abbey Road is super proggy as well.
Isn't it? Right?
Yeah, that's a major. That for me is like an iconic prog album.
Yeah, and then
but there's a lot of other stuff that. I mean, I listen to one of my favorite bands is the Free Design, and I don't know if you are aware of them. They didn't quite manage to break through in the 60s, but they were a family. They're all kind of culty, which is just appeals to me, like weird white culty jazz players who got together and they did their own take on what was going on at the time. Was all the sunshine pop and like Baroque pop, which obviously I then relate to. And I think that that's where the reference of prog comes in, is that what was going on against pop music at the time was these jazzers who were like, oh, you idiots are writing like 4-chord pop songs, which will, and their arrangements of these like 17 chord, in like super intricate vocal arrangements. And they did covers of Beatles songs and made them ultra complex. Like, prog was just about kind of, in a very cocky way, saying this.
I agree. I think it's an attitude. I think prog is an attitude. I think within it, of course, it's become known as kind of a laughing stock because of the sort of behemoths of prog rock, as you say. Who are kind of heralded as, on the same kind of wavelength as Spinal Tap. And who hasn't watched Spinal Tap,
And
right?
rightly so, probably.
And rightly so. and most of those bands. In fact, I think it was. Think there was an interview in one of the prog rock magazines. I think it was with Genesis about we were more Spinal Tap than Spinal Tap. If we remember some of the stuff that we did live, and Peter Gabriel with foxes' heads on and dresses, and brilliant. But and there's, do you know what? There's nothing wrong with the theatrical.
I think it's an integral part, because like we were saying earlier, the great thing about music is that it really it's not limited to the sound. And like these people, Prince, Bowie, the Beatles, they fully understood that. And prog is largely like it. I think it has that reputation because it's not really known as like a particularly cool genre, and I think it's because a lot of the pioneers of prog do actually have this kind of cocky attitude and this sort of, because I'm not a fan personally of Frank Zappa, but he to me is like one of the very integral prog personalities, because it's like, I'm so smart, I'm such a legend, I reject your predictable music ways, I'm going to show you how it should be done. And it is a piss take ultimately.
Yeah.
But what's happened, obviously,
and he did start a trend with silly names,
yes,
for children, because Dweezil or Moon Unit,
I believe, changed her name. The poor girl.
Yeah.
I can't think why, but
we've had a plethora of rock musicians naming their children stupid names ever since. So I think it's...
I aim to take the cake one day when I have children with almost offensively ridiculous names, just out of the pure absurdist.
Well, what you should do is, given that your music has a nod back to the past as well, there's quite a good few references in your music to the past. You should bring back a name which is now gone.
Like I'll call him Vietnam or something.
Like Hyacinths or something,
Yeah, Stalin.
Stalin.
Whatever happened to that name?
Wonder why.
This conversation is literally why, coming back to the prog magazine thing, like I do take it as a massive compliment if anyone from prog magazine actually, it shows that somebody did bother to actually delve in a little bit, because even if I go serious and I feel like I'm a storyteller or whatever, like I am by nature someone that likes to slightly bend things out of shape, and it's slightly because I can, and it's a little bit mad scientisty, and it's a little bit of a piss take because it's fun. Like music is not, for me, like it's not heart surgery, no one's gonna die. Like,
no, and I think you'd rather be interviewed
without worrying.
Yeah, I think you'd rather be interviewed by Prog Magazine or reviewed by Prog Magazine than, I don't know, Smash Hits or whatever. You know what I mean?
I had a bloke, really nice guy, who's been helping me. He's a retired radio plugger, and he likes my music, and so he was like, "I'm a fan, I want to help." So he reached out to some people, and I mean, bless his heart, he contacted people like Cosmo, because he was like, I really think that people should know about you. You should be a bigger name. I'm going to try and plug you to these bigger platforms. It's like, they don't want to know me. Like, they're going to think I'm an asshole. And straight away, he messaged Cosmo, and they were like, not really our thing. Yeah, thank you. Rolling Stone were the same. And it's like,
because they only want to know if you've got a new perfume coming out alongside your alongside your album, or your bum looks great in a sequin dress.
This is the thing,
which obviously mine does, but I mean, not many people got to see that yet.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you should look into that. That would really break through the.
Yeah, you notice I've actually got a prog top on today.
Brilliant! Oh, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
There you go. He said, just to solve it. And actually, I'm in a rush as well. There we go.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
So it's complete prog combi.
This counts. It's asymmetrical. It's quite clearly.
It is.
Collar, so
it is.
Being prog with that.
I mean, what's in terms of the content of the album? How I was going to say how much of it was autobiographical in terms of the actual lyrical content, or how much do you try and inhabit a story? Because I feel that there's quite a lot of storytelling in there.
There is, like, I'm very, I don't know, I like prose, and I've been getting more into literature in general recently. I quite like the fine art of taking from your own thing, taking from other people's thing. Like, it's okay for storytelling to just be storytelling and for it to be fictional. But I can't help as an over-emotional artist for things to bleed in sometimes. And also I do reference my own stuff. Like the whole kind of idea of the album did come from a real place, did come from the fact that my sense of place and my sense of home was conflicted. And it's more on a bigger sense. Like, I had to put it in the house because if you keep expanding on your sense of place in the universe, then ultimately I'm just a speck in time and everything is meaningless. And then I don't write any music because I'm miserable. So I had to like bring it down. It's like, okay, well, my sense of place, where I am now, and my home, and where I live and where I want to be. And it's like, you know, it gets you down a rabbit hole as an artist because, yeah, you have your own reference for that. But also I'm constantly indulging in other people's art, music, and film, and just other people's experiences, and loneliness and confusion about our place in the world is something that we all have a story about.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to, you know, I hate to kind of mention it, but you know, we have lived through a weird time.
Indeed.
I mean, how much of it do you feel was a sense of coming out of that? Because lockdown and everything else, because actually even the title, I think everybody's kind of sensed the fact that we're encapsulated within these walls of our own and whatever, and the sense of what that means to be in our own space and separated out from the outside space as well.
Spending far too much time in our own company, maybe, without escaping that either, you know, in a bigger sense. I mean, I had a very weird experience putting the album together because most of the songs I wrote pre-pandemic.
Right.
I arranged almost all of them during the pandemic because I recorded half of the album literally when there was a tiny gap from lockdown. We went back into lockdown, and then we did the other half when we came out of lockdown again. So it was very much like a lockdown recorded album, and I arranged it then. And our facilities were limited to who could be there at that time, what was safe, and what we had, because it's very much like, it's very homemade, home produced. It's all in the family. Do you know what I mean? But it was really weird for me because I was having issues with my sense of place and isolation and not knowing, like, I, before the pandemic, was about to leave the country. I had a visa lawyer sorted to get me a visa for America because I thought maybe that's where I should be. Like this was all happening, and I was questioning this sense of isolation pre-pandemic. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, for God's sake, like, at least I wasn't writing an album about being free. And
yeah, that would have been awful, wouldn't it?
Because it just managed to fit. But it was very funny. I found it a little bit funny putting it together at that time because I was like, oh Christ. Most of these songs I wrote before the fact, but I knew that everyone was gonna.
Were you saying to people around you? Were you saying, I kind of predicted it?
Yeah.
No. You know, I kind of wrote this album, and you know.
What's really funny is
and it's happened now.
Monday Green, there's a song, one of the singles is Loneliness, and even the video, it's like, the video is me stuck in a living room, poncing about, having nothing to do, and even in the projection behind me, there's like, I put this weird amount of stock footage together to have projection. One of the projections is toilet roll.
See, prediction right there,
Yeah.
right there. And yet, so people were looking at it thinking, oh, yeah, she's written a COVID album. You hadn't written a COVID, you'd written a pre-COVID album, which predicted the fact that we were going to enter into this period of isolationism and whatever. But in terms of, you've had reviews, obviously, but have you had personal kind of responses to the album from people that have listened to it that have gone, whoa, that just really encapsulates what I've felt over the last couple of years?
It goes to show, I mean, I struggle putting out music. I was saying to my mum the other day that the biggest problem with making music is that you'll never, it's like being somebody that makes bespoke cakes for weddings.
Someone eats it.
Like, you never get to actually eat it, even though you know the crafting of it, you know the technical stuff, and you know that it's supposed to be moist inside and you don't want it to collapse. It's supposed to look like this. But ultimately, the people who actually consume it and know what it really looks like and tastes like as the final product is never going to be me, even though I made it. So, like, I rely so heavily on other people's responses, and been really surprised so far that so many people in my life have actually listened to the album. Firstly, that was just a surprise in general. I was like, wow, you actually bothered to listen to like 45 minutes of your time, man. Like, that's lovely, obviously, and I appreciate that. But I was really shocked at how many people were like quietly private messaging me. They were like, I really love this album. I really get it. And it's kind of like these people felt like they were safe to say that, even though, because it's quite an emotional album.
Yeah.
It's quite dark in some places and it's twisting, and it does kind of, like, my friend told me that it's like I'd put a cowpoke into his
nether regions.
Yeah, which is what I'm aiming for, really.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, it's like you went into my psyche and like electrocuted it and made an album out of how I feel in my kind of most vulnerable, lonely moment.
I feel that should be, that definitely on any press cutting should be the the selling review.
Yeah.
It's like having a cow prod pushed into my nether regions.
Yeah.
That would do it. That would sell it for a lot of people.
I think so. Well, I'm planning on a disco album one day, so I may actually use that as a...
Oh, fantastic. Who would you have on the disco album with you? You've got to have Kylie on there, surely.
No, I'm right.
No.
I haven't really thought that deeply about it, but I've always really wanted to...
Nile Rodgers.
I mean, yeah, he's done far too much disco, though. Like, somebody needs to...
Oh, so we're going to alternate disco, right? This is progressive prog disco, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have someone that really shouldn't be in disco, like.
Yeah, well, Stephen Wilson, that would be great, actually. Stephen Wilson.
He hasn't, like, he's very lightly touched on it himself.
He has, but I feel a real boogie wonderland Stephen Wilson hasn't been seen yet.
Yeah, I'd love to see the guy smile for once.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Spandex flares or something. I really think that he'd benefit from that.
Yeah, let's do a Stephen Wilson album tape. There we go.
I'll bear that in mind.
Who would you have? In all seriousness, who would you have on a disco album?
So I have a couple of demos for it. This is something that I'll do in the future, but I do have a couple of demos already. I have like this idea of like, it's kind of slightly twisted, liquidy, groovy, stanky disco, and then I sing it kind of like a female Sylvester. So I want it to be a little bit gender fucky and a little bit like, I basically see it as like, it wouldn't, but like with this the sort of sentiment of Aphex Twin, in the sense that it would be a bit messed up. Like, it's supposed to be sexy, but it's actually a bit gross. Yeah. So I think I would want some really weird people on it. Like, I would definitely want the guy from Aphex Twin, maybe.
Yes. Like,
that would be amazing. Like, we're talking about dream collaborations now, but yeah, someone like him who'd come in and do some absolutely filthy synths. And
well, we had another Holly on this program who you mentioned the sort of gender bending of the voice. We had Holly, otherwise known as Lapsley, on
Cool.
Not long ago. Of course, famous for her effect of making her voice sound like male and female in the same song. So maybe you should hit up with her and see if you could. Yeah,
I did a weird EP years ago when I'd first got into like electronic producing. I did a thing called Desert Wax, and I
that's a good name in itself, isn't it?
did the same thing, where it was like I was doing a call and response to my male and female self.
Yeah,
I kind of want to reference that because like hearing a woman in that goofy male voice.
I want to go down and disco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. So I'd want to have someone like ultra feminine and then mess her voice up to the point where it's like hilariously deep and.
Yeah, ultra feminine. Yeah, that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
I'd get like Amanda Holden or something and say, "Babe, come in. You're going to do some lovely vocals. We'll come to you." And then I won't show her the final product until it's done. And she's like, "I want to go to the disco."
I love that.
Yeah.
I'll come and do it, and I'll sing high.
Yeah. We'll get you in a bikini.
Oh, I don't need it. I can just do it anyway. Yeah. I'll do a load of, it could be a bit like a new sort of Communards record, that bit.
Really cool.
I feel sort of Bronski beat needs to make a resurrection.
Yeah.
That would be great. Don't leave me this way. That'd be marvelous.
I've been listening to a bit of Thundercat lately as well, so like.
Yeah, I love. I do love the Thundercat Gorillas song, actually.
Yes, I have only heard some songs from that album, but I've been really enjoying it.
Really enjoy it, yeah. And the Stevie Nicks song, the one that follows it, Oil, as well. I think it's.
I haven't heard that one yet, actually. I've only got a couple of the singles on my phone, but
yeah, listen to the Stevie Nicks one.
So does she sound like Stevie Nicks? I'm so fascinated.
She does. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily put Damon's voice next to Stevie Nicks, but it just works.
That's
absolutely,
really
which is a beautiful thing. So, what's the rest of the year stack up for you then? I mean, the album's out. You want lots of people to listen to it and give you great feedback from it.
Of course.
Do you get out live at all?
I do.
I've seen a few dates splattered here and there. In fact, you came to Frome, didn't you? You did a date in Frome, yeah.
I did. I played at the Hideaway.
Yeah. Oh, what about further south? Can we tempt you?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, so
talking to all Exeter and Bristol promoters now.
Funnily enough, I was going to say my partner lived in Bristol and Bath for like 10 years, and he's got a lot of sort of friends, connections down there. He's in a band called the Delta Sound, who are based in like Topsham.
Topsham.
Yeah, so there's actually a possibility that in the future, like if they have a gig down there and he's going down there anyway, I'd like to coincide it with being able to, because I've kind of basically stolen him to be my bass player at the moment. He lives with me, so he can't hide.
No, so sensible.
He has to turn up with rehearsals otherwise.
You're playing bass tonight, love, am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Basically. But yeah, I don't. So I. It's funny. Like I have a chronic condition, so my health isn't like always completely amazing. And one of the reasons why I really got stuck into production is it was a way that even if I was physically limited, I could still be as creative as I wanted to. So like, but gigs for me now have become more of like a special one-off situation. But I have put a band together literally in the last month. And I've been doing a couple of little gigs just to see which format and which lineup works the best, so that when we do have gigs come up, that I can have a really cool band with me. So yeah, like I'm doing a couple. I've got one at the Camden Club coming up.
That's nice.
Yeah, 14th of April for that one. That's going to be really good. And then I've been invited to, it's called the Pop Overthrow Festival, and it's at the Cavern Club in Liverpool.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Now, well, there you go. You see, we come full circle round to the Beatles again.
There we are. I'll be in the same air.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think actually what you do want to do is eventually, as you say, move to the southwest where the air is sweet and clear, and that's probably good for your health as well.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
And
Yeah,
I
I just want to be around sheep and less people, quite frankly. I think
yeah,
it's good.
yeah, and maybe sort of play on the seafront.
Yeah.
There's an ambition. You could tick that off on it. It's a different sea though from where you are. Completely different.
Is it?
Yeah, it's completely different water. Yeah.
I mean, people surf down there, don't they?
People what?
I heard that people surf down in Cornwall.
Oh, people surf. Yeah, people surf around here, and also, you know, they just take things easier. That's the thing.
That sounds nice.
That's what you need to do.
That's
Listen,
it.
it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Hope you really appreciate the fact that you know, we made room in the middle of that interview for you to go and open the door and you know, and all of that thing. I didn't ask you any questions about what's your favorite biscuit or anything stupid like that, which, you know,
Why?
because that's not what you should ask musicians.
We're so not that interesting.
It's just ridiculous.
I want to know what people's favorite biscuits are. I mean, when I
Really?
get interviews and stuff, it's like, when did you realise you were going to be a musician? It's like, I don't know. Nobody. Anyone actually do that?
Nobody gets born thinking, I'm going to be a musician.
They want a story that's like, I touched a piano one day and I just felt deep.
Yeah, when I was 4 months old, I composed something equivalent to Mozart, and from that moment on, I just knew that I was going to be a musician and struggling my whole life.
Yeah,
for
I
money.
knew. I've been a masochist since the time I can remember, and I like suffering, and I like feeling completely internationally ignored, and I decided I'll be a musician.
Yeah. I also love anybody that interviews musicians, assuming that all musicians make tons of money. I think that's probably the most hilarious thing in the world. Okay?
That is if you're. Yeah, I mean, it depends where you come from, because I do know lots of musicians that make loads of money, but they are more fortunate than I.
Well, some people do make a reasonable amount of money from it.
But it's not that kind of industry. It's like, I keep hearing people like, you know, you need to just like do gigs and sell t-shirts and you'll make loads of money. That's how people make their money, through merch. You know, Taylor Swift does that. It's like, yeah, Taylor Swift is world famous. You idiot. Like, I'm going to sell 4 t-shirts in Maidstone this year. That is not going to pay my rent.
Well, no, let's do better than that for you. Okay. So if anyone would like to buy a Holly Henderson t-shirt, it will be personally rubbed with Persil liquid. And she might even smell it for you. Yeah, she definitely won't sign it because that takes too much effort. But someone might even post it to you if you pay enough money.
Yeah.
If you'd like to then pass it on to someone else so that they can then buy it, and you'd like to just keep posting the money to Holly, she will be a millionaire by this time next year. In the meantime, yes, if you'd like to buy Holly's album, it is available for you to buy as opposed to just streaming it through that black dot in the corner of the room. She's now going to tell you where you can do that, and then you're going to go out and do that, because that's very kind. So here we go. Holly, where do people spend their money?
Go spend your money at you can get it anywhere, but my preferred platform is Bandcamp, because they have the fairest splits. And very soon, if you follow me on things like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or I even joined TikTok, even though the very thought of it actually makes me want to vomit. Follow me on anything you possibly want, because I will post somewhere very soon that I'll be releasing physical copies as well. Yeah, turns out I did make enough through merch to print some CDs.
So if you're lucky enough to have a job where you earn money and it's burning a hole in your pocket, which it really is, then please do go to Holly's Bandcamp, which will be her name and Bandcamp.
Holly Henderson Music.
Holly Henderson Music. There you go. And spend all of your hard-earned cash, because quite frankly, there isn't anything else to spend your money on these days. You're already, I know you're spending a fortune on food and heating, but if you buy Holly's album, you can stay warm anyway by listening to it.
By the feeling in your belly.
Yes, and that's a feeling that you won't achieve by any other means. So please do that. Holly, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for taking part with that. And I'll see you around. And if you're ever down this way, please do let us know. Maybe you'll make it down to the southwest. Who knows? Until next time, this has been My Music. Do subscribe to it if you feel that you must. Also, if you really do like it, shout about it to your friends so that they can hear Holly's music. It's nothing to do with me. I don't really care one way or the other, but I do care whether you listen to the music. So do that. Until then, bye for now.